Hey YouTube, what's going on? ZeroMagnumX, and welcome Digidust and Tamers. As you see from the video title, this is going to be kind of a comprehensive guide about how to improve your gameplay skills and maybe get those little edges that you didn't know about. So the first thing we're going to do, because I have some cards here, and I like doing this a little bit more raw. It's always kind of been my thing. I mean, the fancy stuff is nice, but I like tactile stuff. So kind of bear with me, as we're going to talk about memory gauge management. I noticed a lot of the Bandai events, sorry, I had to think of the name, had an issue with the memory. They just would always give their opponent like a little bit, and it'd be back and forth, back and forth. And I was like, you know, that's actually pretty good. So, if you're unsure about what kinds of cards to use for that, this is for the newer players. We will increase in these tips. Some of you may be like, I already know this, I don't care. Well, that's fine. This isn't for just you. This is for everybody. Even myself, I'm learning as well. So the first part I want to go over is this Elecmon guy. See him? He's got 2 memory, 0 cost to Digivolve, and 3,000 power, but no skills. So it's nice because on your turn 1, you can play this guy down and pass turn and only give your opponent memory. This is pretty straightforward standard stuff. A lot of people know about it, especially for things like the next card, which is Gorillamon. If you can see there, he costs 1 memory to Digivolve, 6,000 power, but he's got that 6 cost hard cast. That's kind of expensive, but you know, if you have the memory for Digivolving and you're at 0, sometimes you can pin your opponent at 1. And then next up is Monzimon, and these Ultimates are in every color. I just happen to have a blue deck here. Monzimon costs 2 memory to Digivolve into, 5 to hardcast, and 6,000 DP as an ultimate, and has the same thing for straining your memory. Now here's something I noticed that a lot of the Bandai tournament players maybe did not run, because they played this kind of memory gauge starvation game, were the memory tamers. Anyway, these guys all read the same thing. They said, at the start of your turn, if you have 2 or less memory, set your memory to 3. I feel like if more decks had played this card, maybe they wouldn't have been memory strained on camera or anything like that. It seemed like a lot of them were struggling to establish, and their opponent would just kind of go right in, memory starve them, build a board, and just absolutely annihilated them. And I have a feeling that these memory card tamers would have helped. Another memory tamer that some people aren't looking at, from Yellow, in case you're a Yellow player. And I know, I'm not True Champion Steve, so he might have the, what do you want to call it, the monopoly on Yellow, or however you want to say it, you know. But cards like this Kari, okay, that will help with not getting memory starved. If you have 3 or less security cards on the start of your turn, you gain a memory. And there's a slew of those kinds of tamers in other colors that will help you bump up to memory. I think there's one in blue, like if your opponent, I think it's Matt, that if your opponent has a Digimon with no Digivolution sources, you can gain a memory. So that can kind of be helpful. I've seen people use that. But I noticed that a lot of the Bandai tournaments were based on that memory drain. So maybe looking into those tamers so it doesn't hurt you in the same way, especially if people are going to copy these decks and bring them to your locals, might be a way to get around that and get an edge up on the competition. Number 2 point is all about these guys, the Digitama. That's right. In the Digitama zone. So this is a personal lesson that I've learned from playing at locals. I We'll get to lesson 3 and 4 because I think it's just going to be a 4-part video. Lesson 3 or lesson 2 is utilizing your Digitama zone in a positive way. And what I mean by that is that a lot of people get to rookie, maybe get to champion past turn, okay, because of the memory. Then it swings back to your turn. Move that rookie or move that champion up, man, and get in those attacks. And I played this way for a good while. And I have a feeling, and this might be controversial, I don't know. I have a feeling that might be a little bit incorrect. I think it's a little bit more in depth than just shoving every Digitama up onto the board and building a board. Because what ends up happening a lot of the time is usually those Digimon get removed by something. If they stay in the Digitama zone, they're safe. They can't be interacted with, they can't be touched, so it might be a better strategy to Digivolve up to a certain point while in the memory, establish a board with some rookies, and then maybe champions or whatever else have you, so your opponent has to interact with those cards. And then Digivolve up into like your boss monsters, so you're ready to kind of launch your attack and strategize around what your opponent is doing. A prime example is I was facing a yellow deck, and in game 1 my deck just kind of flopped and died. I built the deck incorrectly. I built the deck with even like 3 cost ultimates, which hurt me. That didn't give me much benefit. Like the Garurumon promos, I love those promos. They're really cool. They need jamming. Hard lesson learned, figured it out. What else can I say? But in game 2, he had a decent board going on, and I think I was at like 4 security or something like that. So my thought was, man, I gotta like counterattack so he doesn't kill me. And so I because the previous turn I'd moved up at a Digivolution. It's like I gotta get my Metal Garurumon on play so I can go and swing in because he has Digimon without security, double break. It'll be great. I was like, wait a second. This is yellow. Yellow has a lot of negative power cards. Now, there's nothing big enough to smash my 12k, but what if he combines cards? And it was that thought process I was like, I think I'll leave Metal Garurumon in here, establish a board of, like, play a couple of things, play the Metal Garurumon, memory gauge switched over to his turn. He attacked a few things. I think he attacked into, like, a couple of high things, so I kind of broke some of his board, just back and forth, regular gameplay. But on the next turn, because I think I had a couple of cards, or a couple Digimon out to attack with, I advanced the Metal Garurumon, swung in, broke 2 security, recovered because of Garurumon coming from underneath, and put him at another 2 or whatever, and then swung in for game, because I'd attacked him a couple of times before. In game 3, for some reason, I did not take the same route. I advanced my Metal Garurumon in an impulsive way, just to be able to attack, and sure enough, it swung back to his turn, and he destroyed Metal Garurumon. I couldn't do anything about it, and proceeded to lose the game. So I think playing the Digitama Zone comprehensively will help your game play out much more than you think it might. Number 3. Okay. This is one that I think is the most complicated of the points I'm going to make, and hopefully stay with me on this one. It is about measuring attacks versus measuring staying back. One of the common mistakes I see is not attacking when you should. And this is a trend I noticed from watching the Bandai tournament games, is that players who attacked, I would say correctly, won their games because they would either force blockers away or they'd have an advantage in security. the players who would hold back and like let their opponent establish a board on the other side would end up in a really, really bad spot. And what I mean is they would have to pay a lot of memory to like be able to match their opponent in Digimon, because they chose on the previous turn not to attack in correct sequences and whatever else have you. And combat might be one of the most difficult things to master in this game, but I come from another TCG on the wall, if you can see, Kaijudo, which is a very, very similar game to Digimon. And in that, I kind of learned when to attack it and when not to. What units to give up and sacrifice when they attacked into the shields, because they could be attacked back and whatever else have you. Kind of learning that ebb and flow, and it takes a lot of time to learn that. But right now, 1.0 meta, if you have an open attack, take it. That's my general advice. Because, yeah, sometimes your rookie dies, sometimes your champion might not make it. But eventually, if you can Digivolve up from using point number 2 into a solid boss monster, you're probably going to take game if you can get them low enough. And I've noticed that this strategy makes or breaks a lot of games in the 1.0 format. From locals, from the Bandai tournament, just overall. And I notice a lot of people just holding back and not wanting to get aggressive. Okay, point number 4. This is kind of more specific on different colors. I'm going to cover something I noticed in purple, specifically on Bandai, and then apply it to the overall course of the game from the Bandai tournament. So, the one guy had purple user Millenniumon and I think a Tapirmon on the field. And you played down Chimeramon. So he played, because I think he attacked with Millenniumon and then dropped that. He chose to destroy Tapirmon to get the card draw. And this is more about tempo, will be like the overall arching point, is tempo gameplay. Now, the green player, and this was I think in the third game, or second game or something, but it was already shown. The green player had a 7-drop, I think it was like Terror Cluster, if I'm not mistaken, that would send a rested Digimon to the bottom of the deck. In this instance, the purple player played Chimeramon, as I said. And instead of choosing to destroy Millenniumon, which would come back, having 3 Digimon on the board to attack with, he chose to go down a Digimon to get the draw in hand. Card advantage is wonderful. It's how you win a game. But card advantage always needs to have a purpose as to where it leads to, such as board presence. And board presence and tempo in Digimon is huge. It's how you win the game. Getting ahead of your opponent is so important. Because in that instance, had Chimeramon opted not to destroy Tapirmon, for one, we have a Digivolution target for a champion, which are more frequent than Megas. So, and the purple player wasn't likely to Digivolve on top of the Chimeramon anyway. So after establishing that, they decided to hit the Tapirmon. And in most instances, because there's a way to like revert the board or stop different situations from happening, they're going to go after that Millenniumon. And they're going to be able to, and especially playing green with Terror Cluster, or like even if you're facing blue, they can Cocatus Breath it, and they're likely going to remove your big threat. So you want to keep your board presence and your tempo going on that board. Having as many Digimon as possible as threats is the key to winning this game. Why the green deck in Japan's meta is doing so well, because it can so quickly build a board with Mimi just pushing Digimon after Digimon after Digimon. It overwhelms your opponent because you have more guys than they do, and you attack in their security and you win. So always be paying attention to your plays whenever you're establishing a board, and get the maximum amount of power and Digimon you can on the board. That's why Rush decks are so popular. That's why Rookie Rush consistently tops. That's why Green consistently tops. because it's just able to churn guys out, make costs reduced. It does everything in this video that I'm saying that will lead you to victory. So hopefully those points help you out in the Digimon TCG. Alright, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Take care, YouTube, and I'll see you later, Digidestined and fellow tamers. Later, everybody.